Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Well, it's that time to review the headlines on today's newspapers with the Deputy Managing Director of This Day newspaper, Kayode Komolafe. Good morning.
Good morning,
thank you for joining us
Good morning,
today
Adefemi.
Yeah. All right, and I guess we begin with This Day newspaper, Adefemi.
We will.
Yes.
The headline there is talking about the APC. We'll make sure Kankara incident never repeats itself. This was obviously a very important week. We know that while there was the headlines that these 344 or thereabouts schoolboys were taken from their school grounds very late in the night,
Yes.
early in the morning, by armed insurgents, taken into captivity for a week. Their subsequent release was definitely celebrated this week. However, it does raise a few more questions on what made this case different. The fact that more than 300 boys were able to be rescued within a week, but 6 years later, we are still missing a few of the girls from Chibok. Leah Sharibu still remains in captivity. What are your thoughts on that?
Great. I think I agree with you absolutely. First is that it's a great relief that the Kankara boys are back. Even though we are still saying that a lot of things still need to add up in the story, but that is not the important thing now. The important thing is that while the Kankara boys are out, we should also think of the 112 Chibok girls 6 years after. You know, there is still the unfinished security business in Chibok. We should still remember Leah Sharibu, who since 2018, when about 113 boys were taken from girls, were taken from, boys and girls were taken from Dapchi secondary school. And those who were taken at that time in 2018 were returned, just as we have the Kankara boys, but only Leah Sharibu, is still there. So those in government, the different factions of the government and security agencies who are taking credit for what has happened in Kankara, they're entitled to it. But I also think that they should also put themselves in the shoes of the parents of the 112 Chibok girls who 6 years after, are yet to return. They should put themselves in the shoes of the parents of Leah Sharibu, who 2 years after that she was taken from Dapchi secondary school, that she's yet to return. So this unfinished security business, and then that raises the question again, that in approaching this issue of security, it's not just about the common phrase now, that the Buhari should rejig his security architecture. Maybe we should consider him as commander-in-chief. He can arrange his security architecture the way he wants. He can appoint whoever he wants to put in office. But then, he is accountable. It's accountability. That is in terms of the strategy, in terms of the output of the security. He owes the Nigerian people, as the commander-in-chief, a lot of explanation. The country is on sale. Just as we were having your program, you remember that there was the breaking news of another foiled attempt of, just only yesterday on Maiduguri, Damaturu Road, about 36 commuters, were taken, all over the country. There's hardly a day that you will not have a report of somebody being killed, somebody being kidnapped, somebody being robbed. The country is unsafe. The whole space, the whole Nigerian space is secure. So that brings the issue of accountability. I think we should, the public, they need to keep all the pressure on the commander-in-chief that it should be more accountable in the matters of security. So while we celebrate the victory in Kankara, the outstanding questions, on security, they still remain and they should be squarely addressed.
I agree with you. I think that's the most important thing at this moment, the rejigging of the security architecture in Nigeria. Yeah. Shall we move over to This Day Style, or do you have another headline that you want to look at?
Sure.
All right, so let's move over to This Day Style. It's a special edition, 64 pages of fashion. Well, the cover there is Kenneth Eze and the winners at the just concluded Arise Fashion Week 2020. Amazing event. Adefemi, the host.
Thank you.
The hostess.
Appreciate it.
And Shaitan.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it was amazing event. But we are so very proud of these winners. And also in this special edition, all you need to know about Arise Fashion Week. We have the 3 winners with their photo shoot in there as well. We have a review of Anna Winter, Chief Editor-in-Chief of US Vogue, and Artistic Director and Global Advisor of Condé Nast. We have a little report on her there. She, gave us a shout out during Arise Fashion Week. What an important message that she shared. And also, obviously, we have supermodel Naomi Campbell inside as well. I mean, it's an amazing addition to have her feature always at the Arise Fashion Week. Your thoughts, Mr.
No doubt.
Kayode?
This week's edition of This Day's Style is a collector's item, in the true sense of the word. And it's quite comprehensive. If you missed, watching the show, online, you could actually catch up, by having a copy, of the rest. And it's also significant, that a lot of background, is given, apart from the, colorful photographs, in the text, I think one thing that strikes me there is, the tribute, that's given to the man, behind, the brand, because it's grown.
The face behind the brand.
The brand.
Nduka
Obaigbena, because and that it has been a tireless effort. I remember in initial stage the Arise magazine. I used to participate in the New York, Fashion Week. And what we witnessed, last week in Lagos, of course, quite reminiscent, in terms of the building of the brand.
Yes.
That you're having it, and that you could have that kind of wide participation, especially by a very, productive generation. The 30 designers under 30, and with all the promises implicit in it. I think it's a lot of congratulations.
Yes.
Oh, Lord, and definitely to our very own Oji Okmi, who's one of our judges.
Both Oji and Adefemi, I think they deserve a lot of congratulations.
Yes,
I watched you and
we all did.
Quite proud of your performance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I guess we all should pick up a copy of this day. I mean, this is a collector's item, like you said. 64 pages. Big special congratulations to everyone at This Day Style, Arise Fashion Week, and Mr. Nduka Obaigbena.
Indeed.
Well deserved,
Yes.
Well, moving on to our next newspaper, we've got The Nation on Sunday, and it's a political headline story there. The PDP governors and Atiku head for showdown over secondaries. There's also a picture of Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who has been described as Person of the Year for his show of initiative, daring and facility for action in a pandemic. And over to you there.
I think Governor Sanwo-Olu deserves, the award, because he gave leadership, during the first wave of COVID-19, just like the presidential task force at the national level, was giving leadership here in Lagos, which is could actually be called the epicenter of the outbreak of the virus, and I think these awards you challenge him more now that we are now scaling with the second wave. For the showdown of PDP and Atiku, I think what we said here last week or so about the APC is also applicable. I think at this time, the politicians should be addressing the issue at hand, in terms of finding instead of finding solutions, suggestions, different perspectives, So to me, it's a tendency that could invite cynicism on the part of the public. When a nation is faced with insecurity, with serious economic problems, the nation is insecure, people are getting poorer. We are not getting perspectives in terms of solutions from politicians. Rather, all the news we are talking about how people are jostling for 2023. We are not talking about how people are going to be secure and survive 2020 or 2021, and having it. So I think the news from politicians now should be a debate, in terms of coming out with, productive ideas on how to solve the problem at hand, and not, just hitting up the polity about what is going to happen in 2023, when nobody knows exactly what the realities will be, in 2021, much less 2023. Yeah.
Indeed. All right.
Yes.
Let's take another newspaper. Let's head to the Daily Trust.
Right.
Yes, Daily Trust. The lead story there is insecurity. Well, above that, also, we always have that 2,433 days since the Chibok schoolgirls were abducted. I always want to highlight that. Every day we keep talking about that.
Very important,
Yes, very important subject. But the lead story there is insecurity. 50 foreigners kidnapped in 3 years. Really, it's a big deal. And the states are Delta State, Ebonyi, Cross River, Lagos, Taraba, Ekiti, Oyo in the lead, which I find very interesting because we've seen a lot of kidnapping happening in the north more recently, correct?
No, I think that story specifically is about the kidnap of foreigners.
Foreigners, yes.
Yes.
And that's what I mentioned.
Exactly. So I think based on the statistics available to
the Daily Trust, right?
But I think it's very significant,
that at this point,
that you have that in the last 3 years, 50 foreigners
in 3 years, and then it says Nigeria among top 10 African countries on kidnapping map.
Yeah.
See more on that story.
So it's quite logical, that if in 3 years you have 50 foreigners kidnapped. Among thousands of other Nigerians who are in captivity, kidnapped by various groups of criminals, either terrorists or bandits or kidnappers. Now, that in itself, should tell us something about the perception out there in the world about Nigeria. So when you do all this ranking about insecurity, about terrorism index, and the rest, then you should know where, the assessment is coming from. I think it is something that should also engage the attention of the Commander-in-Chief and his security team, that the place is just insecure, and that what should be on the table now, on the agenda of everybody, is how to find the solution, to the crippling problem of insecurity in Nigeria, to make Nigeria a secure space. Because before you could talk of any other thing, whether economic management, politics, whether you are going to become president in 2023 or not, you need to keep the country secure in 2020 before you could have any realistic projection.
I mean, this is definitely a national issue, a national problem. It was just this week also we were talking about the ex-service chief in Edo State who was kidnapped, and I believe his driver was killed in the process of that. So it's just another example. Thank you.
Right.
So it's another
example. Only yesterday,
Yes.
I mean, that is what I'm making that. So while we celebrate, the news about Kankara, we should know that insecurity is still very top on the agenda.
Indeed.
Not looking good
Not
for
at all.
the global perception of Nigeria. Do you have another story?
Thank you. So moving on to The Guardian on Sunday. 1 week after marketers dare the federal government and sell petrol at 167 naira. That is on page 2. Also, just underneath there is a picture of a cultural group performing during the first National Theatre Festival of Unity in Lagos just yesterday.
Yes, I think the lead story of The Guardian, illustrates the confusion, of the government, about the whole idea of the regulation, of the center. One day we'll hear that, subsidy has been removed. Another day you'll hear that, government is fixing the price. I think it's just a symptom of the whole policy disarticulation that has defined the sector, for decades now. And that the Nigerian government, successful Nigerian government, have not been able to, cure itself of that particular malady of policy disarticulation. I think until the government is able to get itself sorted out, in terms of policy clarity of what to do about the sector, this sort of confusion will continue.
All right.
What else do we have on The Guardian there?
Yeah.
Perhaps
we can take the punch.
Take the punch now. Because I was thinking that there was going to be a story on the whole SIM registration story.
I'm sure we'll find that in another newspaper. Let's go to the punch right now, Sunday Punch. The lead story, Nigeria may spend over 540 billion naira on COVID-19 vaccines. Very interesting. Sanwo-Olu, Obaseki, others worry as cases, deaths rise. You know, we're hitting that second wave at this point. Federal government reveals plan to immunize over 120 million Nigerians. Minister, top health officials meet as National Assembly over funding. AU, World Bank, Afrexim Bank in talks to support Nigeria and others. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think you should make when the sun shines, as they say, you know. If the rest of the world, you know, is, you know, gearing up in terms of vaccination, you know, this is not the time for Nigeria to lay back. But to be fair to the government, and I think even early in the day, you know, I think that should be sometimes earlier in the year, you know, the government has been, Nigeria has been part of this alliance, you know, for vaccination, you know, and I think it is important now to step it up, you know, and the news that there is a plan, you know, to get 120 million Nigerians vaccinated is a promising one. But then the challenge now is how to walk the talk to actually, you know, operationalize it by taking the necessary steps, you know. Although when you now look at the bill, you are bound to get intimidated, you know, that, you know, in terms of the budgeting process, in terms of policy implementation, you know, will Nigeria be able to, you know, get that done? Because it is very important, you know. Globally, the direction is that you just have to improve. I mean, you just have to make the efforts to get a significant segment of the population, you know, vaccinated, you know, before you could be hoping for any respite.
But also we have to talk about this strategy that will be put in place to vaccinate 120 million Nigerians. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
The first strategy, first of all, is to be able to get the vaccine, you know, and it doesn't come, you know, cheap, you know. So how to get the funds, you know, to have it then, of course, as we see from the experience of countries that have already started vaccination, you know, like you said, it requires a very efficient, you know, administration, you know, of things. You know, you need, you know, various.
We need data. We need statistics. We need, you know, how many people.
Equipment, you need equipment. You know, you need the drive. You need the will. You know, to be able to reach, you know, as many people as possible. Then there's also the moral question, you know, and that is be able to get people persuaded, to have confidence.
And that's a big issue.
You know, because Nigeria is a country, you know, where, you know, the conspiracy theory, you know, about vaccine is very prevalent.
It's not just Nigeria; it's global.
I think it's one of the countries. It's global, you know. So I'm saying that we are not immune, you know, to that, you know, I mean, problem, you know. So the process of getting people convinced, engendering confidence of the people in the idea, the whole idea of vaccination should start by now, you know, so that you involve community leaders, you know, religious leaders, you know, schools, you know, and, you know, the media, you know, to step it up, you know. So while you do that at the moral, you know, at the moral intellectual level, you know, concretely on ground, then you have to raise the fund, you know, get the vaccine, and then also put into place, like you said, the strategy, the operational strategy of ensuring that, you know, you get vaccination to every part of Nigeria.
It is time for us to take a very short. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still on our newspaper review, still joined by Kayode Komolafe. Thank you very much for joining us. I think it's the Sunday Vanguard we're looking at now, isn't it?
Yes.
And the headline story there is again talking about the Kankara abduction. But as OG rightfully noticed, there's this different headline there where they talk about the negotiation behind that release. So the headline does read, how we negotiated 344 schoolboys released without military force. That's the Sunday Vanguard.
Yeah. It is a very important story, it also brings back the whole question about accountability. I think the government should see it as a sort of embarrassment. This incident, took place. There was a process of getting the boys released, and now we're having different versions of the same story from different elements of the same government, of the same administration. I think that is not good enough. The Army has its own version. The Ministry of Information has its own version. The Katsina state government has its own version.
Mr. Komolafe, we've noticed this strand across the federal government.
So what I'm saying is that this is an embarrassment, because there can only be one truth. What happened is what happened, and that can only be one thing.
One story.
So that from the same government, you're not talking about opposing government. You're not talking about a different country that you're having different story. Again, it brings the whole question about accountability. That those who are in power, they don't feel that they are accountable to us. Accountability is not just bookkeeping. It's not about Naira and Kobo. It's not about the Accountant General or the Auditor General balancing the books. It is about things that you owe people explanation on what happens and how our affairs are being conducted. It's not all about money. It's not about looting resources. That you respect Nigerian people, that when something happens, you tell us the truth of what happened, and that as a Nigerian, you also believe your government, It's accountability. And in a very sensitive matter as security, as crucial as this is not an issue in which Nigeria can tolerate, different versions that you don't know who to believe, So it is, the abduction itself was a national embarrassment, The communication, during the crisis.
How many students?
How many students? Even up till now, you cannot even be sure, of the accurate number of how many students were kidnapped, how many were returned, because it depends on who is talking, and whose figure you want to believe. This is not the way, affairs of a nation as big as Nigeria should be conducted, This is clearly, governance incompetence. Which I think Nigerians have tolerated, far too long, and it is all part of this impunity, that you just think that you can just sit there and, say whatever you like from your own corner, without, bothering, about how contradictory, what one arm of government is saying to the other, and also it also shows, this whole thing about the lack of functionality, the dysfunctionality in governance in Nigeria, in the Buhari administration, everybody is just on his own. Everybody is in his own little republic, making his own pronouncement, dishing out his orders, mindful, of whether there is need for coherence, and harmony, So I think in the business of communicating, to the public, about this crisis, accountability, and sense of responsibility, demand that we should be told the truth of what happened in a clear way.
Yes,
it is utterly unsatisfactory, that we're having it, because for instance, from what the Army headquarters, Defense headquarters have said, nobody has spoken about negotiation, and the Minister of Information said no ransom was paid. We have.
The governor also said that no ransom was paid.
But here again, you're having security. Talking about negotiation. So what I'm saying is that it's because people in power think that they don't owe the public any explanation. Much less telling the public the truth, of what happens,
Exactly.
And I think that is what we need, I think what is happening is quite, shameful.
Absolutely,
it's quite shameful.
Well, thank you for joining us. Absolutely, thank you for joining us for our newspaper review.